The rain hammered my Honda like bullets as I sat in the Meridian Financial parking lot. My car had died again. Third time this month. Steam poured from under the hood while I watched my coworkers drive past in their shiny company cars. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was soaked to the bone by the time I reached the elevator. My contract clearly stated I was entitled to a company vehicle after 6 months. It had been 8 months now, and Miranda Blackwell, my boss, kept making excuses. Today, I decided to ask her directly. I knocked on her glass office door, water still dripping from my hair onto the polished floor. She looked up from her computer with that familiar cold stare that made my stomach twist. "What do you want, Emma?" "Miranda, my car broke down again. According to my contract, I should have received a company car months ago. Can we discuss this?" She leaned back in her leather chair, a smirk spreading across her perfectly made-up face. Then she did something that changed everything between us forever. "Company car?" Miranda's voice rose so everyone on the floor could hear through the thin office walls. "Emma, you can barely handle your current responsibilities. You're completely useless. Why would we waste a company car on someone like you?" The entire office went silent. 20 pairs of eyes stared at me as I stood there, dripping wet and humiliated in front of colleagues I respected. My face burned with embarrassment that felt like physical heat. Sarah from accounting looked away uncomfortably. Mike from IT pretended to be suddenly fascinated with his keyboard. Miranda continued her public humiliation with obvious pleasure. "Maybe if you actually contributed something valuable to this company, we could discuss perks. Until then, figure out your own transportation like everyone else had to when they started." I wanted to disappear into the floor or argue back, but shock kept me frozen. Instead, I turned and walked back to my desk with as much dignity as I could manage. But as I sat down, I caught Miranda watching me through her glass office. The expression on her face wasn't just professional coldness. It was satisfaction, like she had enjoyed every second of that humiliation. That night, I couldn't stop replaying the scene in my mind. My husband Daniel found me pacing around our kitchen at midnight, still furious and hurt. As a corporate attorney, he'd heard plenty of workplace horror stories, but this felt different somehow. "She called you useless in front of everyone?" Daniel's jaw tightened visibly. "Emma, that's not just bad management, that's potential harassment." I started listing everything Miranda had done over the past 8 months. The forgotten meeting invitations that left me out of important discussions. The last-minute project changes that made me look unprepared in front of clients. The way she dismissed my ideas publicly while praising weaker contributions from others. Daniel grabbed a notepad and started writing everything down. "We need to document all of this. Dates, witnesses, exact words. This pattern you're describing isn't coincidence, it's systematic targeting. You think she's specifically going after me? I think you need to start keeping detailed records of every interaction. And Emma?" Daniel looked unusually serious. "Stop giving her the benefit of the doubt. People like this don't change, they escalate until someone stops them." I didn't know how prophetic his words would prove to be. The next week, I discovered something that made my blood boil with rage. I arrived early to prepare for the quarterly board presentation, only to find Miranda in the conference room setting up slides. My client retention strategy that I'd spent weeks developing and researching. She was presenting my work as her own creation. I stood in the doorway, watching her practice my words, my research, my innovative ideas with complete confidence. When she noticed me, she didn't even look embarrassed or apologetic. "Oh, Emma, I decided to present this strategy myself. The board responds better to senior-level presentations, you understand. But this is my work, my research, my strategy, my late nights. Your strategy?" Miranda's eyebrows rose mockingly. "I don't recall seeing your name anywhere on these slides. Besides, you're not even invited to the board meeting." That afternoon, I watched through the glass conference room as Miranda presented my work to the executives. She received standing applause for ideas that came from my brain, my countless hours of research and analysis. When she returned, glowing with praise from the board, she found me at my desk, staring at my computer screen. "Maybe, if you spoke up more in meetings, people would remember your contributions," she said with that same satisfied smirk. 2 weeks later, at the company networking event downtown, I spotted a familiar face by the bar. Jessica Chen. We'd been close friends in college but had lost touch after graduation. After a few drinks and catching up on old times, our conversation naturally turned to work. "You know, it's funny you work at Meridian," Jessica said, twirling her wine glass thoughtfully. "Miranda Blackwell works there too, right? I went to college with her." My stomach dropped like I'd been punched. "You went to college with Miranda?" "Yeah, except she was Miranda Blake back then. God, she was so intense about everything, especially about..." Jessica paused, studying my face carefully. "Wait, didn't you date Daniel Morrison in college, the guy you married?" I nodded, feeling suddenly sick to my stomach. "Oh my God." Jessica's eyes widened with realization. "Emma, she was completely obsessed with Daniel. Like, genuinely obsessed in a scary way. She would show up wherever you two were. She was totally convinced you stole him from her, even though they never even dated." The networking event continued around us, but I felt like the world had stopped spinning. Miranda Blake. The girl who made my senior year hell with her constant presence and strange behavior. "She hated you so much, Emma. I can't believe you work together now." Jessica kept talking, not noticing my growing shock and horror. "I remember graduation day so clearly. When Daniel proposed to you in front of everyone at the ceremony, the look on Miranda's face was absolutely terrifying. Pure hatred, like she wanted to kill you right there. The memories came flooding back like a dam bursting. The girl who always seemed to appear wherever Daniel and I went on campus, who asked my friends weird, probing questions about our relationship, who would stare at us across the cafeteria with that same cold expression I now saw every day at work. She completely disappeared after graduation," Jessica continued, oblivious to my distress. "Changed her whole identity somehow. I heard she even changed her last name, which was weird because she never got married or anything." My hands were shaking as I gripped my wine glass. Miranda hadn't just randomly become my boss through normal career progression. This was planned, calculated, deliberate. She had found me, researched my life, infiltrated my workplace, and now she was systematically destroying my career. "Jessica," I whispered, barely able to speak. "She's my direct supervisor." Jessica's wine glass stopped halfway to her lips. Her face went pale. "Oh, Emma, you're in serious trouble." The revenge that had started in college was still happening, and I had walked right into her carefully laid trap. I spent that entire sleepless night researching everything I could find. Public records, social media accounts, anything that could tell me about Miranda Blake becoming Miranda Blackwell. There was no marriage certificate, no divorce papers, no legal reason for the name change. She had simply decided to become someone else right after college graduation. The timing was absolutely perfect for her plan. She could apply for jobs, build professional networks, climb corporate ladders, all while I remained completely unaware of who she really was. For 8 months, I had been working directly under my college stalker, and I had no idea. Daniel found me at 3 a.m., surrounded by printouts and multiple laptop screens showing search results. "She changed her name specifically to hide from you," he said, scanning the evidence I'd compiled. "This isn't just workplace harassment, Emma. This is premeditated revenge spanning over a decade." "But how did she even get this job? How did she become my boss so quickly?" Daniel pointed to one of the documents I'd printed. "Look at her emergency contact information. Robert Blake, listed as uncle." I cross-referenced the name with Meridian Financial's board of directors. My heart stopped completely. Robert Blake was on the board of directors. Miranda's rapid rise to power suddenly made perfect sense. The next morning, I called in sick and spent the entire day digging deeper into company records. Using my connections in HR, I carefully accessed personnel files and discovered the smoking gun I needed. 3 different department heads had recommended me for promotions over the past year. Each recommendation was approved at the departmental level, then mysteriously withdrawn after board consultation. Robert Blake had been systematically blocking my advancement at Miranda's specific request. I wasn't just dealing with a vindictive boss anymore. I was fighting against a completely rigged system. While I worked overtime, exceeded every target, and brought in valuable new clients, Miranda's uncle ensured I stayed exactly where she wanted me, under her direct control, available for daily humiliation. The pattern was both brilliant and incredibly cruel. Keep me successful enough that I wouldn't quit in frustration, but blocked enough that I couldn't escape her authority. Make me completely dependent on her approval for everything while systematically stealing my work and sabotaging my reputation. I thought about every late night I'd stayed to fix her mistakes. Every presentation I'd prepared that she took credit for. Every time I'd blamed myself for not being smart enough or good enough. It was never about my actual performance. It was about her college obsession with my husband. I reached out to the 3 women who had quit Meridian Financial in the months before my arrival. If Miranda was targeting me specifically, maybe I was her only victim. But I was completely wrong about that assumption. Sarah Chen agreed to meet me for coffee at a quiet downtown cafe. She looked exhausted and stressed, like someone who'd been through psychological warfare. "Miranda made my life absolutely hell," Sarah said quietly, glancing around nervously. "Stolen projects, impossible deadlines, public humiliation in meetings. But the weird part was how she asked about you constantly." My blood went cold. What kind of questions about me? Really personal stuff. Your college boyfriend, your wedding details, your husband's job and background. I thought she was just making friendly conversation, but looking back, it was completely obsessive. She would bring you up in every single conversation we had. Lisa Martinez, the second woman who quit, had an eerily similar story. She asked me to describe your husband once. Said she thought she might recognize him from somewhere. I showed her your Facebook photos, and she stared at them for like 5 solid minutes. The third woman, Jennifer Torres, delivered the most chilling detail. She asked me to find out where you and your husband went for your anniversary dinner. Said she wanted to avoid the same restaurant for personal reasons. I thought it was weird, but I told her anyway. Miranda had been stalking me through my own coworkers. Daniel and I spent the entire weekend creating what he called our evidence vault. We organized email chains showing stolen ideas with timestamps, meeting minutes proving systematic exclusion from important decisions, performance data showing the direct correlation between Miranda's successes and my contributions, detailed witness statements from all 3 women who had quit. "This is really solid evidence," Daniel said, organizing files into categories. "But we need something more. We need proof that her behavior is personally motivated rather than just professional misconduct." "What do you mean exactly?" "If she's just a bad boss who happens to target high-performing women, they'll give her management coaching and move on. If she's targeting you specifically for personal reasons from college, that's completely different. That's legally actionable." I stared at our evidence wall. Photos, documents, timelines covering every surface of Daniel's home office. How do we prove the personal motivation? "We make her show it," Daniel said with that calculated smile I'd seen him use in court. "We create a situation where her professional behavior can't be separated from her personal obsession with you." That sounds really dangerous for my career. "Emma, she's already systematically destroying your career. She's been doing it for months. We're just going to make her reveal her true motives in a way that can't be denied." I trusted Daniel completely, but I was terrified. If we were wrong about this, Miranda could destroy me entirely. Monday morning, I implemented Daniel's carefully planned strategy. I created a fake social media post about renewing my wedding vows with Daniel, complete with romantic photos and gushing captions about our eternal love and unbreakable bond. I made sure my privacy settings allowed coworkers to see it easily. The reaction was immediate and dramatic. Miranda stormed into the office like a hurricane of barely controlled rage. She assigned me 3 impossible deadlines for the same day. She questioned every single decision I made in front of clients. During the afternoon meeting, she interrupted me mid-sentence to criticize my obvious lack of preparation. I recorded everything on my phone, hidden in my purse. Emma's presentation shows exactly why this department needs much stronger leadership, Miranda said to the room of 12 people, her voice dripping with contempt. "Some people just aren't cut out for high-level strategic thinking." The personal venom in her voice was unmistakable to everyone present. This wasn't professional criticism based on performance. This was pure, raw rage. Jealous rage that had been building and festering for over a decade. After the meeting ended, I found her in her office, staring intently at my social media on her computer screen. She had been obsessively stalking my personal life all day long. That evening, I called Jennifer Hastings, CEO Richard Hastings' daughter. Jennifer and I had been in the same social circle during college, and I desperately hoped she remembered Miranda Blake and her disturbing behavior. "Oh my God, yes," Jennifer said immediately, her voice filled with recognition. "Miranda Blake was completely unhinged about your boyfriend. She used to follow you guys around campus, take pictures of you together from behind trees and bushes. It was genuinely creepy and scary." Jennifer remembered far more details than I did. She would sit in the library, where she could watch you two study together. She knew your class schedules, your favorite restaurants, everything about your routine. My friends and I used to joke that she was going to end up on a true crime podcast someday. Would you be willing to tell your father about this situation? Emma, if she's targeting you at work because of college obsessions, Dad absolutely needs to know immediately. That's not just harassment. That's stalking that followed you into your professional life. He won't tolerate that kind of liability in his company. The next day, Jennifer called her father directly. By late afternoon, I had a meeting scheduled with CEO Hastings for the following week. But I wasn't going to make this personal or emotional. I was going to make it purely about business and corporate liability. Instead of framing this as a personal vendetta or college drama, I created a professional presentation called Protecting Company Assets Through Leadership Accountability. I meticulously documented how Miranda's discriminatory behavior had cost the company millions in lost talent, stolen intellectual property, and potential lawsuit settlements. I showed the brain drain, 3 high-performing women quitting within 1 year under her management. The missed opportunities, projects that failed because key contributors were systematically excluded from planning. The legal liability, discriminatory behavior patterns that could result in massive settlement payments. I requested a formal meeting with the executive committee to discuss leadership effectiveness and corporate risk management. On Wednesday morning, I sat across from CEO Hastings and 2 senior board members in the main conference room. Notably, Robert Blake was not included in this meeting. "These findings are extremely concerning," Hastings said, carefully reviewing my presentation materials. "You're alleging systematic discrimination and intellectual property theft. I'm documenting behavioral patterns that suggest serious leadership failure," I replied carefully, keeping my tone professional. "These issues represent significant corporate liability that needs immediate attention." Hastings closed the folder with a decisive snap. "We'll be conducting an immediate internal investigation using external consultants. Thank you for bringing this to our attention in such a professional manner." As I walked out, I knew I had just lit a very dangerous fuse. I just didn't know how massive the explosion would be. The investigation began immediately with ruthless efficiency. An external HR consulting firm interviewed current employees, reviewed thousands of emails, and audited project records going back 2 years. I watched Miranda's face grow visibly paler each day as more damaging evidence surfaced. But the most shocking moment came when Robert Blake called his niece into his office for what everyone could see was an intense private conversation. Through the glass walls, I could see their heated discussion. Miranda was crying desperately, gesticulating wildly, clearly explaining something that absolutely horrified her uncle. Later, Sarah from accounting told me what she had overheard through the thin walls. She confessed everything to him. The college obsession, the deliberate name change, the years-long plan to get revenge on you. Her uncle thought he was helping his brilliant niece succeed in her career. He had no idea he was enabling a dangerous stalker. Robert Blake immediately recused himself from all decisions involving Miranda. The nepotism that had protected her for months vanished overnight, like it never existed. Miranda tried to approach me in the parking garage that evening, looking desperate and panicked. "Emma, we need to talk privately. This has gotten completely out of hand." I kept walking toward my broken-down Honda without stopping. "We have absolutely nothing to discuss, Miranda." Or should I say, Miranda Blake? Her face went completely white. She finally realized I knew everything about her true identity. The following Monday, CEO Hastings called me into his office with completely unexpected news that left me speechless. "Emma, we're promoting you to regional director, effective immediately. The position comes with a significant salary increase, full company car package, and substantial equity participation." I couldn't breathe properly. Regional director was Miranda's current position. "There's more," Hastings continued with a slight smile. "Two competing firms have made aggressive offers to recruit you away from us. We'd like to counter with a VP track position if you're willing to stay with Meridian." For 8 months, I had questioned my own abilities and professional worth. Miranda had systematically made me believe I wasn't good enough, wasn't smart enough, wasn't valuable enough to succeed. Now I was discovering that my professional value had been artificially suppressed by her sabotage. "What's happening with Miranda?" "Ms. Blackwell has been reassigned to a junior analyst role with no direct reports. The investigation revealed significant misconduct that warranted immediate demotion and close supervision." I walked out of that meeting in complete shock. Everything I had worked for, everything Miranda had stolen from me, was finally being returned with interest. But I knew the best part was still coming. At the company-wide meeting announcing major organizational changes, I was asked to present new anti-discrimination policies to the entire staff. As I stood before everyone, I could see Miranda sitting in the back corner, no longer at the executive table where she used to hold court. "Competence should speak louder than office politics," I said, looking directly at her across the room. "Merit should matter more than manipulation, and talent should be recognized regardless of personal vendettas or hidden agendas." Miranda's face crumpled with the realization. She finally understood that I knew everything: the college obsession, the deliberate name change, the systematic sabotage campaign. Her decade-long revenge plot was now exposed to everyone who mattered. The investigation also revealed that Miranda's stolen ideas had generated over $2 million in revenue that I had never received proper credit for. The company awarded me a massive back pay settlement, plus significant stock options as compensation. I watched Miranda clean out her corner office that afternoon, carrying her personal belongings to a cramped cubicle in the back section. The woman who had called me useless in front of everyone was now working under people she used to supervise and humiliate. Justice felt even better than I had imagined it would. My new company, BMW, arrived the next week with personalized plates reading, "Earned It." I parked in the executive spot that had been Miranda's territory for months. But the sweetest irony was watching Miranda's company car get repossessed due to her demotion and disciplinary status. Every morning, I drove past her bus stop on my way to work. Sometimes I would see her waiting in the rain, the same cold rain that had soaked me that terrible day when she called me useless in front of everyone. The complete role reversal felt like poetic justice, but I felt no desire to humiliate her publicly the way she had humiliated me. I had won by being better, not bitter. Daniel surprised me at work with lunch to celebrate my promotion. As we walked through the lobby together, him still handsome and devoted, me radiating newfound confidence and success, Miranda emerged from what was clearly another HR disciplinary meeting. The look of pure defeat on her face said everything that needed to be said. After all these years of obsession and elaborate plotting, I still had everything she had ever wanted and more. The difference was I had actually earned it through hard work. Her revenge had backfired so spectacularly that it defied belief. Miranda couldn't handle seeing my success and happiness every single day. She submitted her resignation letter after just 2 weeks of working under her former subordinates. But in her final act of pure spite, she tried to sabotage my biggest client account. She called Johnson Industries directly and told them I was incompetent and promoted far beyond my actual abilities. She suggested they should seriously consider switching to a competitor who could better serve their needs. It backfired immediately and completely. Johnson Industries called me directly to warn me about her strange and unprofessional phone calls. "We've worked with you for months, Emma. We know your capabilities intimately. If anything, her desperate attempt to undermine you makes us want to increase our investment." They signed a 3-year extension worth $5 million that same day. Word spread rapidly through the financial industry about Miranda's unethical behavior and attempted client sabotage. Her job search became a complete nightmare as former colleagues quietly shared detailed warnings about her conduct. Professional networks are much smaller than people think, and damaged reputations travel incredibly fast. Meanwhile, I received offers from top firms nationwide. My reputation grew stronger and more respected while hers crumbled into nothing. A year later, I attended our college reunion as a celebrated VP with a growing reputation in the industry. The evening newsletter featured Daniel and me as the success story couple, high-achieving graduates who had built wonderful careers while maintaining a strong, supportive marriage. Miranda showed up unexpectedly, clearly hoping to blend into the crowd and avoid attention. But classmates who remembered her obsessive behavior from college actively avoided her. The whispers followed her around the room. "Didn't she used to stalk Emma and Daniel? I heard she got fired for harassment." When Daniel and I were introduced on stage as featured speakers, the applause was thunderous and sustained. I talked about overcoming workplace adversity, finding inner strength in challenges, and building lasting success through persistence and integrity. Miranda fled the building before my speech ended. In the parking lot afterward, I saw her sitting alone in an old beaten-up car, crying uncontrollably. For just a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Then I remembered the public humiliation, the systematically stolen work, the deliberate sabotage. She had chosen this destructive path completely on her own. Last month, I received the prestigious Corporate Leadership Excellence Award at the National Financial Conference. As I stood at the podium, looking out at 300 industry professionals, I spotted a familiar face in the very back row. Miranda was there, working for a small local firm now, watching from the cheapest seats available. Her face showed something I had never seen before. Genuine understanding of what she had lost. In my acceptance speech, I talked about overcoming workplace adversity without naming anyone directly. Sometimes the greatest obstacles become our most powerful motivators. Sometimes the people who try to break us actually make us stronger and more resilient than we ever imagined possible. The standing ovation lasted a full 5 minutes, with people cheering enthusiastically. After the ceremony, dozens of professionals approached me with new opportunities, potential partnerships, and speaking engagements. My success had become completely unstoppable. I never saw Miranda approach afterward, but I knew she was watching from a distance. Her decade-long revenge plot had accomplished the exact opposite of what she intended. She had made me stronger, more resilient, and more successful than I ever could have been otherwise. Her hatred had become the fuel for my rise. Today, I run the entire West Coast division of Meridian Financial. My team of 47 people generates $50 million in annual revenue and growing. I drive past that old bus stop every morning in my Tesla, thinking about the woman who once called me useless. Miranda works for a small accounting firm across town, handling basic bookkeeping. Sometimes I see updates about her on LinkedIn. Still angry, still bitter, still blaming everyone else for her professional failures. The investigation revealed that she had attempted this same pattern at 2 previous companies, systematically targeting successful women she perceived as threats to her advancement. Her uncle had been helping her cover her tracks and smooth her path for years until she confessed her obsession with me. Robert Blake retired early in complete shame. His distinguished career ended because he chose blind family loyalty over corporate integrity and basic human decency. But the most satisfying part of this story isn't their dramatic downfall. It's my incredible rise to success that nobody can take away from me. The Honda that broke down in the rain that terrible day still sits in my garage at home. Daniel thinks I should sell it or donate it, but I keep it as a powerful reminder. Sometimes the worst moments in our lives become the catalyst for the best changes we could never have imagined. Miranda's systematic cruelty forced me to document everything, fight back strategically, and discover my own true worth. Without her deliberate sabotage, I might have stayed comfortable in my mid-level position forever, never reaching my full potential. She pushed me to become the leader I never knew I could be. My assistant knocked on my office door yesterday. "Emma, there's a call from Harvard Business School. They want you to be a keynote speaker about overcoming workplace adversity. I smiled, thinking about that soaked, humiliated woman who stood in Miranda's office 18 months ago. She would never have believed this moment was possible. Sometimes our worst enemies give us the greatest gifts by forcing us to discover our hidden strength and unlimited potential. Last week, I received a LinkedIn message from a young woman at Miranda's current company. She had heard about my story through industry connections and desperately needed advice about her supervisor's increasingly disturbing behavior. The message described familiar patterns: stolen ideas, public humiliation, systematic sabotage. Her supervisor was asking strange personal questions about her boyfriend and their relationship. Miranda was doing it again to someone new. I immediately called the woman and shared everything: the documentation process, the legal strategies, the specific evidence required to build an ironclad case. I connected her with Daniel's law firm and 3 investigators who specialized in workplace harassment cases. Miranda's new victim wouldn't have to suffer in silence like I did. This time, there wouldn't be an 18-month learning curve. This time, justice would be swift and decisive. I hung up the phone feeling a deep satisfaction that went beyond personal vindication. My victory over Miranda wasn't just personal anymore. It was actively protecting other women from her toxic, destructive patterns. The call came on a Wednesday morning that changed everything. Miranda's new company had fired her after just a week-long investigation revealed the exact same discriminatory behavior patterns. But this time, they also pressed criminal charges for harassment and attempted corporate espionage. She had tried to steal proprietary client information to sabotage her victims' projects and advancement. Security cameras caught her accessing restricted files after hours. Her pattern of revenge had finally crossed the line into actual criminal territory. I felt a strange mix of satisfaction and genuine sadness. Part of me had secretly hoped she would learn from her mistakes and build a better, healthier life. But Miranda was completely trapped by her own hatred, doomed to repeat the same destructive patterns until they destroyed her entirely. That afternoon, I received a handwritten letter at my office. Miranda's desperate handwriting filled 3 pages of rambling justification, blame shifting, and finally, a pathetic request for help finding a new job. I threw it away without finishing the last page. Some people change and grow when they face serious consequences. Others just find new targets for their anger and resentment. Miranda had made her choice long ago. 5 years have passed since that rainy day when Miranda called me useless. Today, I'm the youngest VP in Meridian Financial's history. My team has won 17 industry awards. I speak at conferences worldwide about leadership, resilience, and workplace equality. Daniel and I renewed our vows last month, not as a fake social media post this time, but as a genuine celebration of our strong partnership. The ceremony was featured in the Business Journal as an example of power couples who actively support each other's success. Miranda sent a congratulations card to my office. I didn't open it. Yesterday, my assistant mentioned that Miranda was working at a temp agency now, her career effectively over. The criminal charges had destroyed her professional reputation permanently across the entire industry. I felt absolutely nothing. No satisfaction, no anger, no pity. She had become completely irrelevant to my story. The woman who tried to make me feel useless had given me the greatest gift possible, the unshakable knowledge that I was unstoppable. Every obstacle she placed in my path had made me stronger, smarter, more determined. Her revenge had backfired so completely that she had created her own worst nightmare: my unlimited success. Sometimes the best revenge is simply becoming everything your enemy tried to prevent you from being.